My Very Last Life. Chapter 4, Part 1, The Great Books. So I'm sitting here, I poured myself a whiskey, a Glenlivet, not a great whiskey. Glenfarclas is better. Glenlivet is not that great. I don't know why. Lefrog is better. I don't know why Glenlivet does it. It's in that range. It has that reputation. Talisker, it's up there. It's in this upper middle range of good Scotch whiskies. But I don't know. It's just not as good. It's okay, but it's not as good. Maybe it's because this Glenlivet I have is the American Oak edition, which is from a bourbon flask. Bourbon cask. They take, casks, sherry, port, and bourbon. And I've never been a fan of whiskeys, of Scotch whiskeys made from bourbon casks. I love bourbon, but the Scotch turns out dry, I think. Maybe that's the problem. Okay, so anyway, still, it's still good. Cheers. And I sit here and I've been thinking about books since talking about books with my friend whom I'm calling Manfred, and I looked at all my books here. I went through my stacks of books, and some of them are books I've been carrying with me all my life from my childhood. In fact, one of my first childhood books I have here. The first books I read and fell in love with reading when I was a young boy are here, and some of the books that I fell in love with when I was in college. That's the next phase of learning how to read and falling in love with books, and they're here, and some of the books I realized are essential books, and some are not. Others are just bullshit books. But some of these essential books, like I have here, which I bought when I came back from my mission as a Mormon missionary in Germany, the collected works of Rilke. That's an essential book, or 6 books, but still. 101 Famous Poems, given to me by my father, an essential book. Proverbs of Old Hawaii, an essential book. I looked in my cupboard here, and I found a book I had when I was a kid, The Romance of King Arthur and His Knights of the Round Table. It's a beautiful and very good condensed version of the classic Morte d'Arthur by Mallory, and with beautiful, incredibly beautiful illustrations by Arthur Rackham. And so I read a few pages, and it's beautiful, and it seems to me like the story, The Adventures of King Arthur, seems to me one of these essential epic things that contain all of life. And there's another book, I don't even know what this book is. It was given to me. It's a German translation of the 100 most beautiful love poems of the Orient, meaning in Arabian, I guess. It probably was the main language, and translated by a German woman called Claudia Ott. And I just read a couple. I think Astrid left it here somehow, and I never read it. I read a couple, and there's some beautiful poems, and Robert Lowell, my little book of Robert Lowell poems, which I cherish, and the Decameron and Ovid's Metamorphoses are here, and of course this book that I'm speaking into YouTube, The Art of Worldly Wisdom, which is such a brilliant, true book, and the works of Shakespeare. These are the essential books, and everything else you can just throw out. It seems like, and what had occurred to me, what was funny and strange that occurred to me, was that these books were given to me when I was a kid. When I was a kid, or maybe growing up. It was like I had people in my life who were concerned that I had access to the great books, and so my dad gave me 101 Famous Poems. Okay, so someone got me the story of King Arthur, Someone said, read Metamorphosis. And there was concern that it's important that you read these essential books. These weren't people who, they weren't literature professors. They didn't talk to me about them. We didn't sit down and discuss these books. No one, that I didn't have in my life. I didn't have this discussion of books. And I've always grown up with the feeling that I yearned to have these literary, intellectual discussions, these fulfilling, intellectually challenging discussions with people. And at the same time, I thought of them all as pompous idiots, people who do that. And when I've come close to these kind of discussions at literary parties, and I've heard them, I've always hated it, because I've always thought them actually as pompous. But at the same time, I yearn for that, because I was given the books, and I read the books, and I love the books, and the books are part of my life, and still are. I've carried them with me since my childhood, or since college days, or since being a kid in high school, discovering, these great books. I still have them, but it's not a part of my social life. Strange, huh? And so here it is. I sit. I'm surrounded. I pulled them all. Not all of them. I pulled some of them out of the bookcases, and I read chapters and paragraphs, and I'm sitting on the couch here in my workroom, surrounded by these beautiful, wonderful books that men and women have slaved over at some time in the past, not knowing that some guy in the far future would be sitting here loving them and reading them and being filled with hope and spirit and intellect and a feeling that being a human is worth being human because of these books. I cannot tell these guys, they're all dead. I cannot tell them what they mean to me. They didn't know when they lived, and they will never know. So here I sit, and this is a good place to sit. It's good to be surrounded by these books. This is one thing I love. I think I should throw out all non-essential books. Just throw them out. Burn them, maybe. Get rid of them. Surround myself only with the essential books. Nothing else. Well, that's all I have to say. I'm filled with love for these books, and what they've given me. I'm privileged. I'm privileged. If I had been born in Homer's time, I could have gotten close to Homer. I could have been his servant, but I would not have understood what he did, and I would not have been able to read or listen. Maybe I would have had access to his books, but only his books, but not all the others that passed. But now, being born in this time, being just a guy with a library card, being just a guy who had enough money to buy a paperback, that's all it took. That's the extent of privilege that I needed, which is very low. Anyone can have this. Anyone can have access to all of this. Boccaccio's Decameron. Anyone. That's where we are today. You talk about privilege, that's privilege, and everyone can have it. It's just there. All you have to do is get it, sit down on the couch, pour yourself a whiskey, and read it, and surround yourselves by these books. It's a beautiful life. It's all the sorrow and all the yearning and dissatisfaction of my life. I look at this and I realize, my God, I'm so blessed, and it's such a beautiful, perfect life. Chapter 4, Part 2. One great book. I want to write one great book. I've written it down as a goal, and I've had this goal for all my life. Though articulated in that way, it has not been. I've always, wanted to be a great writer, or be recognized or discovered as a great writer, or be celebrated as, whatever, all that stuff, that you have these ideas of writing, or being a star, or being recognized, or being justified as a kid when you're growing up, and you're fighting with your older brothers and sisters, and you're standing, and that life is crushing you because it's so big, and you're just this little fucking kid, and you just life is just too much, and you just want to, you close the door and you go in your dark room, and you sit and you write a story, a bad story about, some hero with a sword who fought the dragon but was not recognized, and someone else got the credit, and he's a victim even though he's the best, and it's stupid. But that's how you see yourself, because you feel that no one is watching you, no one loves you, no one recognizes you, no one sees you for who you are, and all these great things inside you, which aren't really great because they're just inside you. You don't, if you have greatness, it happens because you prove it in the outside world. And looking inside you and seeing greatness, everyone does that. Serial killers look inside themselves and see greatness. That's not unusual. Everyone does that. That's just ego. Greatness happens when you prove greatness. But when you're a 15-year-old kid crushed by the dominance of your big family and your older brothers and sisters and the world out there, which is just too much. It's just, that world is big, and it's no way I was ever going to be Bill Gates or Obama or Jonathan Franzen, even though I don't even like Jonathan Franzen. But you're that 13, 15, 14-year-old kid sitting there, and you have some kind of vague idea of what you want to do, and it's all about being yourself, having yourself being recognized, and lifting yourself up above this low level where you are. And now I'm not that kid anymore, and I've never been lifted up beyond that low level. I mean, I guess in a way I have. I can't complain. I'm a successful published writer, right? So that's fine. But I was never discovered in the way I wanted to be as a kid, of course. But my goal has not actually changed. It's become more specific. I don't want to be the Shakespeare of sword and sorcery fantasy. That's what I wanted to be as a kid. I want to write sword and sorcery like Conan or Tolkien, but in such a way that, the great literary journals and universities would have to recognize me, because I'm the Shakespeare of fantasy. And of course, I don't want to be that anymore. But the one thing I do want to do, and it's not about being anymore, I think it's something that I want to do. I can feel it. I can feel the wholeness of this goal. Oh, it's the cat. The cat is getting at the snacks. Hold on. I have to give the cat snacks. This is Lucy. Here we go, Lucy. Get that. There she is. Now she's happy. I want to write one great book, and it has to be great. It doesn't have to be. But that's what I want. That's the goal. The goal will not be fulfilled unless it's great. It has to be a great book. It has to be a great book, a book that everyone can read. It has a broad, it's not James Joyce. It has a broad readership. It can reach everyone, for most people. It says something about life that is true, and it says something in a way that other writers do not say. It has a plot, but the plot is not the main thing. The main thing is the experience of reading it. I want that. Okay? And I want to be recognized for it. I want to write one great book. This is I'm now admitting to my innermost desires. A little bit drunk. I've been drinking Koval bourbon whiskey, straight bourbon whiskey from Chicago, not from Kentucky. And I've been thinking the last few days and tonight about this project of one great book. One true book. It's the same thing. And I'm announcing, this is what I want. I want to write one great book before I die. I have 20 years to do it. Maybe only 10, maybe less. But I'm figuring about 20 years. That's the project. That's what I want. I want to do more than this with my 20 years. I want other projects also. But this is the main central project of my heart. I want to write one great book. And this is not a book that's popular. It's not a book that is, makes money. All that I want to, sure. But it has to be great. It has to be great in the sense that it's true. It reaches people. It touches people. And it says something true about life that other people cannot say. Or at least it's said in a way that other people do not say. It's one of those books where people will say, I want this book with me always. I have a little copy with it. I carry it in my pocket. When I move from town to town, I make sure I have this in my bookcase. If I were on a desert island, this is the book I want to have with me, or one of the books I want to have with me. One great book. That's it, folks. And thanks for listening. Tune in again next week or tomorrow or whenever it is I do this again. Whatever, I don't know. If you're interested in the things that are really important to me, I write them in books and I put them on videos. Check out my books on Amazon.com or my YouTube channel or my Twitter and Facebook feeds, or subscribe to my newsletter. That's kind of a lot now that I say it like that. Or any of the above, whatever. I hope I can contribute something to your life or to someone's life, anyone's life really, in some way. I appreciate your support, and I wish you all the luck and success and happiness and fulfillment in your life. Take care till next time.